decided to do this live. I tried to use some other tools and it didn't work. So I'm just like, we'll do it live. We'll do it live. Anyway, so do you know that feeling? I know when I was earlier on in parenting and just you'd walk around with stress. You'd feel a little stress in your neck. You'd feel a little stress maybe here. You feel whatever. The first step that I always share with my kids and that I do with myself is, where do I feel the stress in my body? Where do I feel it? Usually I feel it maybe up here, sometimes here, but not really, or in my lower back. I feel stress a lot of the time, and in my stomach a lot, right? When it happens, but I say a lot. I don't feel it a lot, but when I do feel it, that's usually where it happens. So I thought about it, and I've made one minor adjustment that follows some advice that we give to our kids, but we often forget that it applies to us too. And that's garbage in, garbage out. So what I have here is just a quick lesson to share what has worked for me in this garbage in, garbage out principle, what I have taken out of my life and what I have replaced it with. And it has helped tremendously with not only how I parent, but also how I live my day-to-day life. I don't have so much worry and stress and concern because I'm removing some garbage and replacing it with something else. So let's get into that. First, why I felt so stressed every day. I would wake up and get to school and you'd say, you feel stressed and rush to school and usually take away those precious opportunities that are the first thing in the morning. It's a precious opportunity to start the day strong. And it was being ruined by this thing called stress, or what I labeled it as stress. I found out that it's not really stress, I don't think, in the same way that I thought about it, right? But the garbage in, garbage out principle, I had to address what I had coming in, right? And I was walking around with this, and I remember one day in particular, we were at a street light, at a road, waiting for the light to turn green to cross. And I was just on edge, and I was like, watching my son, making sure he doesn't run out in traffic, because that normally happens. Like, why are we so stressed out about things like that? Like, I have to, there's a car coming, I have to make sure he's going to run out in the middle of the road. Yeah. Okay, we do have to be careful, but we don't have to be completely on Amber Alert all the time, right? But there was a reason for that. There was a reason that I was feeling that edge, and I identified it. I'm going to get into that in a minute, but I identified it and I wanted to remove it. But here's the trick with a bad habit. And I have here, don't release a bad habit naked. Don't release a bad habit naked. What do I mean by that? I mean, you don't want to remove a bad habit without introducing something to take its place, right? So a simple example, many people, when they try to stop smoking, they'll start chewing gum, nicotine gum or normal gum, right? It's that habit. They're not just, because if you just stop smoking, your hands are involved, you're seeing the smoke go out. It's kind of a whole production that we don't think of as a whole production, but there are a lot of little habits. This motion of a habit, the feeling of the cigarette in and I'm just using smoking as an example because it's so, it's something we can relate to. But there are so many little habits that if you just replace it, there's a hole right there. And that hole needs to be filled with something. So that's why that's one reason why a lot of people go back into their old habits rather than let it go, right? So you want to replace it with something else. So here's what I did. I realized and identified that it was the news. The news is something that we don't realize because it's a part of our daily life, because we've been conditioned that way, because we have to stay up to date with what's happening, right? Like for one, that's a strange narrative because it's really not staying up to date with what's happening. That's like and I wrote this to my email community. If you're in my email community and you're coming from here, you've read this, but it's like being at a lake and you see a beautiful mountain scenery, you smell the fresh water, grass, maybe you see a deer off in the distance, birds like eagles flying, but you see about 50 yards away or coming into the, the lake area, you saw a snake eating a mouse. And that's all your attention's focused on, that snake eating the mouse. Oh, this wilderness, it's crazy. I don't like this. It's dangerous. And you keep going back. But what about the snake eating the mouse? Well, yeah, but look at this beautiful, you want to go out on the boat? No, there's a snake eating a mouse over there, right? You're ruining the whole experience because of the snake eating a mouse. You know what I mean? So that's what the news is doing, because life is so beautiful, full of so much beauty and so much abundance and so much life and love. It's also filled with crime and punishment and things like that. Like, that's part of life. But what are you focused on? Right? So if we garbage in, garbage out, if we are inundated with fights, robberies, war, fire, car accidents, like we're inundated with that. That's just coming in, this political side against that political side. This side is right, that side is wrong, that side is idiots, this side is brilliant, that, whatever. We're combating, we're being combative in our minds, and that's what we're feeling. That's the garbage in. And then it affects our whole body. And we're feeling that stress. We're feeling that stress. Wherever it is in your body, we're feeling that stress there. That's not to say there's nothing to worry about, but are you in control of what you're concerned about? And is there good reason? So we don't take something away without replacing it with something else. So here's my challenge to you. Remove the news. Stop watching the news. If it's a part of your morning routine, like get your weather on your phone. Oh, I have to check the weather. Find it on your phone. It has it. I use it every day. But is it accurate? And it's just as accurate as a TV. So get the weather on your phone. Leave, take off the news stations on on Twitter or X or whatever, right? So what did I replace the news with? This helped tremendously. I realized that the only word I can use to describe it, the best word I can use to describe it is clean. I felt clean once I fully got the news out of my system. I felt clean, right? So what did I replace it with? I replaced it with two things. I'm going to give you two things to replace it with. Number one, productivity videos, audios, podcasts, audiobooks, things like that. Start your day out, rather than starting your day out with car accidents and fires and violence and hate crimes and wars. Start your day out with personal development audios. If you're a spiritual person, spiritual lesson audios. If you're more of an intellectual person, audiobooks, lectures. Fill your mind with productivity. If you want to start a business podcasts or business books. Meditation. And that comes up actually next. Intentional silence. This was huge. I did this just this morning. Sometimes I'll meditate every morning, but sometimes I'll put in like meditation sounds and music. Sometimes I'll do guided meditation, but sometimes I'll just sit in intentional silence. make breakfast an intentional silence. Sometimes I'll listen to, spiritual lessons or whatever. Sometimes it's just intentional silence. Let these fill up. When you take away the news, let these fill up that space for 30 days.